Welcome to the Austin Biz Buzz, the podcast that builds the buzz about Austin business. So kick up your feet and turn your brain on. It's time to talk Austin business right now. Here's Herdy.
Hey, Rochelle, thank you for the great intro as usual. And this is the Austin Biz Buzz, the podcast that builds a buzz about Austin business. I'm your host, Herdy Burke. This is our second new launch on the Austin Biz Buzz. We appreciate you guys listening in. Thank quickly the sponsor, Money Coach LLC, owned by Mike O'Neill, corporate trainer and motivational speaker. Likes to work with companies in and around the Austin area. He's traveled all over the United States and international, but he lives right here in Austin, and he loves to work with businesses through their corporate training. He's worked with a lot of high-end companies, and also he's a great motivational speaker. So we want to thank our sponsor, Money Coach LLC. Well, welcome to the podcast, and tonight we are with a special guest. We're with Les Sherman, with Sherman & Company Real Estate. We're going to run through some questions, but Les, introduce yourself and say hi.
Hello, Herdy. Thank you for having me on the show tonight. I've been a realtor in this area for over 40 years, but I've been in Georgetown for about 3 and about 35 of that in Austin and in between.
And lots of experience in this market, and that's why I'm really looking forward to chatting with you tonight, Les, because I know that you can bring a lot of insight into those people that are looking not only to list their home, but to buy their home. So I am really excited to have you on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
All right. So we like to go 30 minutes less so that we don't extend it too much past that. People are in the instant gratification today and like to get to the information. So we're going to do just that. So first of all, let's find out a little bit about Austin. It's been a booming market for a long time. So how is this Austin market doing?
Well, it's like a broken record. Over the last 5 years or so, Austin has been superheated, and we've just had a really strong, really active market. It's all neighborhood related, though. I'm seeing some areas where there's a slight slowdown so people can catch a little bit of their breath. But overall, there are a lot of markets in town where it's still really hot, multiple offers. You get into some of the outlying areas, you may be shifting a little bit more to a buyer's market, but that's rare.
Yeah, and so I guess that leads to the next part of this, and that is, since you've been doing this 40 years in this local area, how's your business doing?
Business is good. I'm scattered between 3 counties because of my past clientele. I go where my clients want me to go, and so over time, I've just developed expertise in different parts of Williamson, Travis, and Northern Hayes County. And so I have been spread out quite a bit here lately, but business has been strong and still keeping my clients happy.
When you bump into people listing their home or people trying to figure out what their home's worth, how much is a home worth?
Well, it's worth whatever the market will support.
Easy answer.
So being an appraiser by background, I did that for about 15 years. I always point my clients to the comparables, the sales that have happened within the last 3 to 6 months. And right now it's a moving target in a lot of areas. So you'd look and try to find the most recent data, the most similar homes, and your value today may not be the same one you peg in a week or two.
Yeah, and I would say that when people are listing their home, they probably are thinking, because the market's so good, they might be thinking that it's trying to price a little bit more than what it might be worth, correct? You bump into that?
Well, I run into that a lot. Like I say, we've had such a strong market for the last 5 years. People are used to this upward trajectory so much that sometimes they overshoot the mark. And we try to balance that. I never want to price a property too short, but I don't want to overprice it where it ends up sitting on the market too long either.
So Les, a lot of people are confused about, I would think, about the cost of selling a home and how the commission and closing costs are handled?
There's a lot of hubbub going on in the market with the disruptors, as I call them, or the iBuyers markets. And a lot of these new companies are trying to say how the traditional realtor is overpriced and, they're cheaper, et cetera, et cetera. The cost of selling your home is always negotiable. And it's what the market will bear. It's what the client perceives that the agent can do for them. But I hope people are listening to hear that these iBuyer companies are doing a little bit of sleight of hand. They're saying they're saving you money, but they're actually charging more than a traditional realtor would charge. And commissions are negotiable. So I would say, even with the iBuyers, it should be negotiable. But don't listen to them when they say they're charging less than a traditional. Well, and it may sound like sour grapes coming from an old timer like me that's been around for a long time, because all of their marketing says they're going to change the way traditional real estate's done. They're going to disrupt. They're going to save you money. But the facts are they really don't. So typically in this market, commissions are negotiable between 0 and 7-8% even. For the traditional realtor, everybody talks and hears about 6%, but that's not set in stone. It's all negotiable. And but the iBuyers, they're coming in and saying, well, we'll charge less of a commission, quote unquote. They might charge 2 or 3%. But then you read the fine print, and by the time they finish charging you for service charges, make ready charges, holding charges, they've got all sorts of names for them. Most of these companies are ending up charging 8.5 to 12.5%. So it's much more expensive and costly. Plus, the iBuyer companies are in it for money, for making money on the resale. So they're going to negotiate a price with the seller that's a good 20 to 30% below market, whereas a traditional realtor is going to try to get you full market price.
Yeah, and so that's a huge difference, and we all know that technology is very disruptive, right? But there's common sense things that need to happen, and I would think that, and this is a great question right now, is so why would somebody listing, selling their home, or buying their home need a realtor?
Well, I think they need a realtor that's knowledgeable of their market so they can filter through all of this and make the right decision. So with my clients, I'm willing to even, research all of the offers that might be made from these iBuyers just so that I can compare what they can get on the open market versus what they can get for the convenience of selling to an iBuyer. Most people are looking at these iBuyers strictly for convenience sake. They don't want to deal with showing the house. They want to have it over with. And they think they're saving money, but by having that convenience, they're actually losing, 20% value on their home plus 3 to 5% hard cost in the transaction. Having a good realtor will not only educate the seller on what their market is doing, where their values are, the pitfalls of selling in their particular market, and how to negotiate with people who may be iBuyers or who may, have that mindset.
So how long does it take somebody to sell their home? And I guess that depends on what the area it's in, if it's under repair. Generally, how long does it take to sell a home, Les, in this market today?
Well, there's a lot of factors that play into that. Generally speaking, I think the average, depending on which neighborhood you're in, it might be 30 to 45 days on average. But there are some neighborhoods where a house will sell the first day with multiple offers. So it's really site specific or subdivision specific. These days, if a property's on the market for more than 45 days, though, it's probably been overpriced. I just tell my clients that are overly exuberant about the price they want on their property, we'll test the market for a short period of time. But if we're not getting results and activity on the property within the first 10 days, we need to adjust price or figure out why.
And one of the questions that I've always, that's not on here that I wanted to ask you, is that you really, one of the things you really like to do is work directly with first-time home buyers, right? Kind of be a consultant to them. Can you explain a little bit about how you like to help those folks?
Well, I do. I'm not exclusive to that segment of the market, but I do really like to help the first-time home buyers because there are so many questions and there are so many ways that they can get into trouble if they're not careful. And so I like to start with the pre-qualification process, get them with a strong lender and have them pre-qualified so we know exactly what they can and can't afford. And a lot of times, what they can afford is not what they need to buy because, you might qualify for 36 or 38% of your gross income, but you might only need to spend 25% of your net. So I try to calculate things for the best of my client's budget and personal situation. But helping them with the financial part keeps us from running off on a bunny trail of chasing houses we can't afford or missing out on houses that we should have been pursuing.
Listen, Les, we're going to take a real short break and hear from our sponsor, and we'll be right back.
Football season is here, and think of how important it is for all the football team to be on the same page. It's just as important for your project management office to be on the same page too. You need to use the same templates. You need to take the same steps. You need to use the same processes because you see, consistency breeds competency. And you need to be the ultimate best with your project management office. Money Coach LLC can make your project management office more consistent. They can make you more profitable. Come see us and let us help work with you on the project management office. That's Money Coach LLC.
Okay, we're back, and we got a couple more questions for you, Les, if you don't mind.
Super.
Okay, so, hey, what is an option period?
Well, the option period is a short period of time at the beginning of a transaction that allows the buyer to do their full due diligence of inspections and research on the property to actually see if they want to stay in the transaction. Up front, we get to negotiate price, and we've seen the exterior of the house and all the visual part of the house. But once you go into contract, you need to have a good home inspector come in and really go through the house with a fine-tooth comb to find out if there are any internal issues, electrical, mechanical, plumbing. If it's got a septic system, you want to look at that. If it's got a pool, you want to look at that. We might not see deficiencies in those items up front, and so we need this time period. Usually it's 5 to 7 days. I've had some option periods as short as 3 and as long as 10 or 14, depending on the situation. But usually it's 5 to 7 days where we have to get all of those inspections done and make sure there's not any deficiencies in the property that would keep my buyer from wanting to pursue the property. The option period protects them in that it gives them a right to terminate with no penalty, except for the loss of a small option fee, which is usually in the hundreds of dollars.
And right, so this home inspector comes in, goes through the house, top to bottom. How are the repairs handled? Is that taken care of by the person selling the home, or is that taken care of by the buyer? Is that in negotiation for the price? How does that work?
Well, nobody is automatically responsible for repairs that are found in the inspection period. That's a negotiable process. So what we try to do is find all the problems with the house, and then we don't nitpick on everything, but we pick out the important ones. If we've got a bad roof, if we've got plumbing or electrical problems, if we've got an AC system going out, those are major items that we want to get resolved before closing. Some things we'll find in the inspection report we can live with, or the buyer can repair themselves. But during that option period, we negotiate, depending on the price we've offered and that's been agreed upon. We then negotiate what the seller will or will not agree to repair or make right after we have done the home inspection. If a seller says, well, I'm not doing anything, well, then the buyer has the right to say, well, that's fine, I'm going to terminate and I'll go find another house.
Exactly.
Yeah.
buyer has the control, correct?
That is correct.
All right. So how does one qualify for a loan on a new home, and especially, and I've seen this in Austin quite a bit, when they're trying to sell their existing home and it's still, how does all that work?
You need a good mortgage officer in this, and there are several that I recommend. I probably lean toward one more than another, but there's several in town that I like and that I've used a lot. And the good ones will really protect the buyer in qualifying them and not get them into a house that's more than they can afford. And it all boils down to their ratio of debt to income and the terms of their debt and the length and terms of their employment. And then you pile on the credit scores, the FICO scores, and all of that. So it's a pretty lengthy process. It can be dealt with pretty quickly, but the pre-qualification process is the easiest part or less stressful part of that, even though it's stressful. The hard part is the transition in people of saying, well, how am I going to, if they already own a house, how am I going to sell my house and transition into a new one? And how can I financially afford that? Well, that's part of the tight wire that we walk in the process, and why you would need an experienced realtor to help you with the timing of your sale and the timing of your purchase, so that all of that fits together the way it should.
Sure, and I would if I come to you and I want to make an offer less on a home, generally, what is that cost to me?
Well, okay. If we make an offer on a home, you're going to need to put down some earnest money, which is usually 1% of the purchase price. That money goes to the title company and is held in earnest in escrow with the title company. You're going to pay an option fee, which could be $100, $200, $300, that buys you that initial inspection period up front, so that you can do your due diligence. So you do have that expense that won't come back. If you end up closing on the house, that gets credited to you, but otherwise that's money spent. And then you've got your inspection fees. Your home inspection might cost $450 to $550.
Mm-hmm.
You need to get a termite report that might cost $90 to $100. And all of these will vary depending on the size of the house, but these are ballpark numbers. So you have your inspection fee, you have your termite fee, and then if there are any specialty items like pools or septic systems, you would have those inspection costs also that the buyer is responsible for. So a buyer could end up having $800 to $1,000 tied up in a property with all of his due diligence, which would make them more reluctant to back out of a transaction. But if you've got a serious house of 10 or 15,000, then that's a pretty good insurance policy that's protected you to get you out of a more costly situation.
As a realtor to somebody purchasing a home, how do you help them with negotiating the best price?
Well, that's my job, to help them determine whether or not the house they want to buy is priced appropriately. And then it actually will boil down to the competition we're up against. If I'm making an offer for a client on a property and I'm the only offer in play, I can be a little bit more aggressive based on market data and budget considerations of my buyer. But if I step into a situation where there are 3 or 4 offers on the same property, we lose a little leverage to negotiate there and may not be able to negotiate price. We may end up actually paying more than list price if we get into a multiple offer. But that's when I always sit down my buyer and say, okay, how badly do you want this house? Is it worth paying a premium for, or do we need to go find another house?
Right. So, Les, we've been through most of the important questions I wanted to ask you tonight. Highly recommend, Les, if you're in the Austin area, and I'll post this website and everything in the description on the podcast. But Les, I'm ready to have some fun with you. So can I ask you some fun questions you're not prepared for? Is that okay?
Oh boy, do I have to answer them?
Yeah, you do. Or you could just hang up on me. Either way, it works. Okay. So I won't be asking you anything that you won't be able to answer. How's that?
Okay, fair
All
enough.
right. So you're a guy that loves hats, right?
Yes, I do.
So tell me a little bit about your hat collection.
Well, I have a variety of hats that I like. I love mostly my Western hats, and I've got a couple of those. I had a famous cousin actor. I had to remake one of his hats so I could wear it. But I've got a variety of fedoras and
Yeah.
different hats that I like to wear off and on, depending on the weather.
Hey, so favorite color?
Favorite color, cobalt blue.
Oh, good color. And your favorite all-time movie?
Oh, well, that's got to be Cool Hand Luke.
Cool Hand Luke. I knew you were going to say that. Because I remember you telling me that sometime before. So, hey, you and your better half go out and do a lot of things. What's the last venue you attended, and what was going on? Was it music or something else?
Well, we like to country dance, so I think the last event we went to, we got to see Rodney Crowell play over at Copeland Dance Hall and enjoyed a night of dancing and eating over there, and that was a lot of fun. We like music and we like country dancing, so we try to get out to some of the old dance halls.
Since you like country western, country music, what is a favorite old artist, and do you have a newer country artist you like?
Well, I guess our most current artist that we like is Dale Watson. We really enjoy his music, and he bounces between here and Memphis and is international as well. But we really like Dale and his sound. Of the old guys, oh gosh, Merle Haggard, Johnny Cash,
Yeah, yeah.
all of those guys. Those are our favorites.
Favorite places that you like to, is there a restaurant or some type of place that you like to go eat that's one of your favorite places to go?
Well, the first thing that came to mind, and I do have lunch there, but it's mainly a coffee shop, and that's the Monkey Nest down on Unit Road. I love the Monkey Nest. It's they've got good salads and great coffee. Uh,
Any barbecue place you like the most?
you know, there's a lot of good ones. I think Rudy's is pretty good myself,
Yep.
but I've
Me
had
too.
Franklin's and I've had Lambert's and all the others, and they're all good.
All right. So, hey, you got through these questions, okay? We always like to do a little portion at the end about get to know our podcast guests. We've been talking to Les Sherman, Sherman and Company Real Estate. Les, what's the best way if somebody wants to get a hold of you? How do you prefer them to contact you if they're interested in talking to you about listing their home or selling their, whatever they want to do or buying a home? How do they get a hold of you?
Well, I'm available in all sorts of ways. I prefer a direct phone call. So
Great.
512-947-8333 is my direct line. I'm always available there. My website is lesshermanrealestate.com, and they can go on there and learn more about me and actually start a search for homes. And I promise they won't be spammed or chased. I prefer people to seek me out for what I can offer them.
Yes, thank you so much for taking time out of Wednesday evening to be on this podcast. And before we go, I want to thank again my sponsor, Money Coach LLC, has anteed up to cover the 35 podcasts we're doing the next year. And I want to thank Mike O'Neill, the owner of Money Coach LLC. You can check out our sponsor's website also at mkoneil.com. He's a corporate trainer and a motivational speaker, and he loves to work with companies in and around the Austin area. So Les, thank you.
Thanks for having me, Herdy. It's been a pleasure.